How much the banker's bonus tax is going to raise how much money?
I haven't got quite the... I know that we have worked out that figure. I'll have to get back to you on that.
When did you discover you couldn't do so?
Well, we can renew the existing legislation. That remained as an option open to us. But what we want to try and do is to make sure that we get the new legislation that we've promoted on the statute book.
When did you decide not to renew the existing legislation then?
Well, what we've got now is legislation with control orders, which we think will meet our needs.
When did you decide not to renew the existing legislation?
Well, what we've decided is to pursue this legislation because we think this is more appropriate, far more appropriate.
My question was when you made the decision.
Well, we've made the decision
Instead of
that we want to
renewing it, which you think you can do, you bring forward this new legislation.
Well, we decided to promote this new legislation in response to the House of Lords judgment.
One last time, did you decide not to do that, but to bring in this new legislation?
The Home Secretary made his statement to the House of Commons on the 26th of January, saying that he proposed to bring forward legislation with a series of control orders.
Should ministers involved in the expenses scandal be allowed to go to the House of Lords?
Jackie Smith. Can I repeat the question? Should ministers involved in the expenses scandal be allowed to go to the House of Lords?
Well, I think I answered you.
No, you didn't answer me at all. The question is about people not wanting to see those who were involved in this being rewarded by jobs in the House of Lords or whatever.
And I can completely understand that, because as I said,
but do you agree with
we've made mistakes. Well, you know, I don't think people who have been disgraced should go to the House of Lords, no. But more importantly, I think we need to put the whole system right. That's what we need to focus on now.
Would you include yourself as somebody who'd been disgraced?
I've never wanted to go to the House of Lords.
That's a slightly different answer. Would you include yourself as somebody who's been disgraced by the expenses scandal?
Yes, I think to a certain extent I have been.
It's a puzzle, I think, to people when you're asked where your home is, and you were Home Secretary, and you didn't seem to give the right answer.
Do you want to answer?
Was that a question?
No, it wasn't. No, it was a serious question. I think the point you raise is, you know, was it a sort of complicated question that you therefore genuinely got wrong and took advice on? If somebody says to me, "Where's my home?" I can answer that pretty quickly.
At what point did you and Labour decide that Mr Murdoch's ownership of so much media was malign?
Well, I think it's been a continuing preoccupation, and certainly when I was Culture Secretary, I made sure that the Communications Act had a provision in it to safeguard plurality in the light of convergence and to address precisely the kind of situation that we're in today with News International wanting to acquire B-Sky B.
As Culture Secretary, you relaxed the laws on media ownership in this country.
No, I actually made it easier for local newspapers to own local radio stations.
You relaxed
and
the
television.
laws. You made it easier for mergers and cross-ownership of different kinds of media to happen. That was one of the purposes of the bill. I remember covering it at the time. A lot of people didn't like it. Of history.
I don't think so.
You were presented by the Information Commissioner by a report in 2006 that showed the illegal gathering of information was rife in British newspapers. It was endemic, and indeed the News of the World was by not anywhere near the worst. Why did the last Labour government do nothing about that?
We certainly should have done.
Why didn't you?
Why didn't we? I don't think there's any good reason to explain why we didn't do anything about it, Andrew, and we certainly should have.
You were in bed with Rupert Murdoch.
No, that's not. No, that. I mean, that. I think. I think this is overstated.
And the resigned last week, Caroline Flint was accused of plunging a stiletto heel, that's the way it was described, into Gordon Brown's government. But in her resignation letter, the Europe Minister accused the Prime Minister of using her and other women MPs as no more than window dressing. She's with us now for her first television interview since quitting. Caroline, good morning.
Tweeted in reference to Stephen Lawrence's murder trial.
I do wish everyone would stop saying the black community, though. Which one?
Abbott replied,
I understand the cultural point you're making, but you're playing into a divide and rule agenda.
Later adding,
white people love playing divide and rule. We should not play their game.
I tell you, if you are trying to be a woman in politics, there was only 3% women in the House of Commons. When I came into the House of Commons, it was a men-only club, and I had to fight to actually get myself in and to get other women in too, so women could be spoken up for. So thank you very much, but don't condescend to me on that.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I just make one response? I wasn't condescending, I was describing. You did indeed fight for women, but you fought most effectively for middle-class women like yourself. Because exactly the way female liberation has worked, and I wholeheartedly support it, is disproportionately in favour of rich, well-connected women like you.
Absolutely not. That is absolutely